Could you briefly introduce yourself and say where people might know you from?
My name is Jordan Anderson. People might know me from, I debated for SOAS, I debated for King's College London, and I debated for the University of London Union. People might know me from Worlds, Euros, a bunch of other things I've gone to, lots of tournaments I've been at. I've spent most of my weekends while I was at university debating, so one of those things.
Okay, cool. So why did you start debating?
I started debating, I did a little tiny bit at school, very, very little, but it was enough that when I went to the Freshers' Fair, I was interested enough to sign up for it and talk to someone. And I went along to one of the meetings, eventually because I was free. I skipped a few of them because I couldn't quite make it, or I was doing something else. And eventually I went to one, and I really just got hooked on the ability to get up and do these 7 minutes of argumentation and have people listen to me for 7 minutes and get to argue with someone. And that's why I kept coming back, I think, because I got a really great rush off that, and I started going to competitions almost straight away.
Okay, cool. So what do you think you've gotten out of debating?
I think what I've gotten out of debating is a really good understanding of how exactly it is you make an argument to other people that will sound persuasive and how you make it as strongly as possible. I think a lot of people, and I think before I started debating, didn't really have a grasp of how you persuade someone else. You thought, well, there are reasons, and if I say reasons at people, they will agree with me, without really thinking about how you present those reasons in a way that makes them both understandable and that addresses some of the concerns they will already have and trying to take those and win those over to your side. So the format of how arguments are put together, the ability to explain it in a short amount of time, and just some of the confidence as well that I think doing it over and over gives you are some of the things I've taken from it.
Okay, good. So what sort of people have you ended up meeting through debating?
Lots of people. Almost every kind of person you can imagine. One of the best things about debating, and especially on the European or the world scale, is you will have people, not just from all different countries, you will see a whole different range of perspective, a whole bunch of different experiences in life. And almost any sort of opinion that you can imagine, from the anarcho-syndicalist to the objectivist. I have met almost all of these, and just a huge number of people with a different perspective on life. And they also just bring their experiences to their arguments, and you got a different series of ideas and ways of looking at things that I think have improved the way that I debate, and I hope I've had a similar effect on some other people who maybe hadn't met someone like me before. So, yeah.
I don't think anyone's met anyone like you.
Well, I am unique.
So what would you say to a person who is unsure about starting debating then?
I think the big reasons why people are unsure about debating is often they're afraid, what if I get up in front and stand up in front of other people? What if I don't make a good argument? What if I don't sound good? Will I not have anything to say? I think the important thing I would say to someone is that it is a learning process, and it is a sport, and like anything else, so much of it is practice. At some point in your life, you're going to have to talk to people. At some point in your life, you're going to have to persuade someone. You can't hide or avoid from these things, short of becoming a hermit. As a consequence, what you want to do is get involved in an environment where everyone is learning and where you will constantly, not just, even if you lose the debate, you will be getting told why it is you didn't succeed there and how you can improve. And debating is a great environment where you constantly get people telling you ways you can be better, you can practice, you can meet other people who are better than you, learn from them, you can learn as a group, and eventually, individually, you will pick up those skills that you're going to need at some point in life. So I'd say you're going to have to learn at some point, and debating is probably the best environment you're going to have for having other people who are very good at it actually trying to help you, not competing against you in the workplace or yelling at you because they don't like you. Or for one of the other reasons they might have an outside debate. I think it's the most positive environment for learning those things.
Okay, good. So you've been fairly successful at debating. I'm sure you wouldn't be too modest to admit.
I'd like to think so.
So what would you say to someone looking to improve at debating? So someone sort of mid-level but not amazing?
It's a classic piece of debating advice, but it's one I always found really good, is that there are two things you prove in a debate. You firstly prove why your statement is true. Secondly, you prove why it is an important statement or why the person you're arguing to should care about it. A lot of the time, people will spend a lot of effort saying, for example, if we do this, it will make people believe more in the legitimacy of the EU, and then don't explain why the legitimacy of the EU actually matters and why that's such an important issue. I think constantly being reminded of the fact that you have to prove why it's important as well is a good advice for anyone at any level of debating, but often that's what makes the difference between the lower and the upper half. I guess secondly, the thing to remember in improving in debating is that there is no such thing as a good argument in a vacuum. All arguments are simply good or bad compared to other ones. It is your job as a speaker to tell the judge why your argument is better and is beating the other ones, not simply to put it out there, let it float, and hope the judges decide that it's better. all relative performance of arguments are comparative. Your argument is only good if you compare it and make it good. It's not good on its own.
Okay, good. So before we wrap up, do you have any closing words or any amusing anecdotes from your career in debating you'd like to share with the crowd?
I have an amusing anecdote, and this is a thing I've taken from debating, or maybe a proof of it. So at a certain World Championships, myself and two other individuals were returning from one of the socials. One of the people was unfortunately a little worse for wear, possibly due to overconsumption of alcohol. As a consequence, we were in a taxi returning from the social to the hotel in this foreign city that we knew nothing about. And when we were about halfway between the venue where the party had been and the hotel we were trying to get back to, it became apparent that one of our three amigos was going to throw up. And obviously this could not happen in the cab. So you had to get out of the cab. We managed to get them out in time, and they threw up on the street. The issue was then, the cab driver was not very keen to take this person back into the cab. They were convinced they were going to throw up inside, and we were left with the choice of either leaving our friend on the street in the foreign city on their own, drunk, and unable to find their way back, and taking the cab ourselves, or all of us being stuck on the streets of the foreign city, not knowing how to get back to either place. As a consequence, we were forced to deploy our debating skills, and I kid you not, we had 3 substantive reasons that we gave to the cab driver why why our friend would not throw up in the cab, why it would be okay, and what we would do if it did happen, i.e. how we would pay for it. We convinced him to take our friend back in the cab, take us to the hotel, and there was actually no more throwing up in the cab, so we were right. So that's my anecdote. Debating teaches real-life skills. It prevented us from being abandoned on the streets of a foreign city because we deployed our arguments.
Okay, well, thanks very much.
No problem. Thank you.